Hello, Journal Goddesses. Welcome to another Tea Talk where I interview creatives about their creative and spiritual journeys and how they got to where they are today. And I'm geeking out once again. If you have not seen the video with Andrea Schroeder, you know that I geeked out with Andrea Schroeder, but I'm getting ready to super geek out here today because I have Mindy Tsonas. And really, Mindy is the reason that I got connected with Andrea and I got connected with some of the other creatives that I have had the opportunity to interview. So this is like the grandmother of my own creative journey here. So I am super duper excited. She is a connector. She is just this beautiful person who has this capacity to connect other creatives and bring forth a lot of beauty in her own personal work. She's got a soul collage, oracle kind of cards, and just all sorts of really cool stuff, and I can't wait for you to get to know her as well as I have. So Mindy, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, and what a beautiful introduction. I'm so honored.
Well, it's true, because the first real creative thing that I did online was Wishcamp, and that's like internet years old, but also
Right?
years and years ago.
Right? Oh my gosh, so long ago, so many iterations ago.
Yes. So take me back to that early time where it was kind of like the internet was new and people were finding other creatives through just blog posts and being involved with that. What was kind of your kind of inspiration to try and put some things out there and then gather people together in that way?
It's really where it all began, right? It's like the prehistoric age. And I have such fond memories of that time. Like, it really felt like we were all just like visiting each other's front porch and like sitting and sipping iced tea for a while,
Yeah.
coming to each other's corner of the world. I loved that. And I often miss that.
Yeah,
It's definitely not quite like that.
Yeah.
Way back when. So let me think. It was probably about 2005 when I started blogging. So my oldest son was about 2, and I was a newish mom at that point. And I didn't have much of a connection to my creative spirit at all back then. I had just, I'd been working in some creative capacity, but it wasn't something that I knew was part of like what fed my spirit. I hadn't reached that part yet. But when I stumbled upon this creative blog world, and I think it was through, I'm going to say it was through Carrie Smith's Wish Jar Journal blog. I think that was my doorway in. And it was like that little Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole falling down.
Right.
And seeing all the wonderful creatives that were connected in the world. It was that time when I just was really hungry for something. And I didn't know what that something was, but I knew that this shiny blog world where people were like being really honest and authentic and sharing just beautiful things, nothing, extraordinary, but just everyday extraordinary, and just how much that touched me. And I could feel it opening up my heart in like a new way. And I knew it was connected to my creativity in some way, but I just didn't really know how. And so I really just like dove in with both feet. I started blogging actually on a community blog with a couple of friends of mine who I was working with, which is so funny. And then from there, I, spun off to my first solo blog, Under a Pink Sky. And I was so happy being in that space, just really, it brings you back to those daily practices of noticing, right? Of like seeing what's going on in your world, of collecting moments and memories, and just really being in appreciation and gratitude for like the beauty and the abundance that's with you all the time. And it opened my eyes in a new way at a time where I really needed it. Like I was, like I said, a newish mom. So that whole journey was unfolding and was challenging. And I think a lot of being a stay-at-home mom was very isolating.
Mm.
So I was really, really craving the community piece for sure. And the blogging absolutely fulfilled that in such a new and exciting way. And just like meeting all these awesome people all over the world, whose hearts just felt so familiar and so near and dear, even though, you know, the distances were great. It was just such a magical time for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that back then and that I feel like I most miss too is just the fact that you can make a really true connection. Like I feel like more so then than now, it's kind of the focus has kind of shifted to, okay, how can I make my vulnerability into content where it was just, hey, I'm just sharing where I'm at. There's something really authentic about
Yeah.
the way it was as compared to, okay, I'm going to share this picture and I'm going to try and be vulnerable, and all of the way social media has kind of changed all that, because there really wasn't a whole lot of social media. I think people were just finding individual blogs, dropping in links, and then, you know, I was down the rabbit hole. Somebody would link to this one. Oh, this looks cool.
Right.
And so in that kind of, everybody was kind of doing their separate thing and then just linking. What was the inspiration for you to kind of bring some more people that you loved under an umbrella and really launch? I want to talk about the Wishcamp because that was really a beautiful, beautiful experience. We see a lot more like collaborative kind of things now, but early on, there wasn't a whole lot of that.
Yeah. Well, I think initially, so I just really fell into the magic of the connective piece. And the community was sort of, I didn't realize it until I was in it. It was sort of like a missing piece for me. And so once I experienced what that community felt like, looked like how it inspired me, how it was like really opening up new avenues of creativity for me, it was just something I knew was super important. Like it's certainly now absolutely a cornerstone of my work. It's a core value in my work.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was really just this energy, right? That was just so shiny and supportive and beautiful. And I just wanted more of that in my life. So as, you know, someone who I think is naturally a connector, and that's something I didn't realize till further along on the path, but it's absolutely true. Like I remember as a child, I would always, you know, put together these little shows with all the neighborhood kids, or I would be like planning a little event, or like I'm always creating things that are just really around creativity, but just bringing people together, really about bringing people together. And there's something about that collaborative energy that's just so nourishing. And I think that's a piece of it. So the nourishing part, the healing part of what it means to sort of be in collaboration together. And so that's how community felt for me in the early days. It was really medicine for me. And calling in these gorgeous, you know, creatives and kindreds of all sorts doing their own thing was just really came naturally. Like it was the kind of thing where I had a platform, I was blogging, I was having so much fun with it, and I just wanted to share what other people were doing. So that's how it began. I just was like, oh, see what this person is doing, and oh, look it over here, look at this amazing work. And the connections started happening organically. And then when it occurred to me that like, oh, this could really be a thing, like I could really bring together people in a mindful and, you know, curated way, that's sort of the beginning of how Wish Studio was made.
Gorgeous. And I know I've benefited from it at a time that I was, you know, I think my son was 5 then. And so I was not a newish mom because I had my daughter who was 12, but it was so different to have a 12-year-old and then kind of be on this start over place and tuning into my creativity in a different way, because I've always kind of done stuff, but not in the way that the people that you brought together at that time was. And so way leads on to way, and we move forward, and you kind of shifted the focus a little bit. And so what was going on with you that things kind of, you started to notice a change and you just started to change with it? So what was going on for you as you started to shift your work a little bit?
So Wish Studio was definitely founded in the community piece and the creativity piece. And by just discovering and exploring those aspects of myself, I found new doors of other places that I just really wanted and needed to explore in my world.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened, again, just really organically, kind of following the threads of inspiration and interest. And what I learned along the way is that, creativity is a healing path and community is a healing path. So all of this sort of became about, self-reclamation and healing along the way. And it wouldn't be until probably like 8 or 10 years down the road that I just really realized that. It was like, this was my journey of like me coming back to myself. And had you asked me a question about something like that in the beginning, I would be like, what are you talking about? I'm just doing stuff. I'm just making stuff.
Right.
That wasn't revealed until much further along the way. So I really feel like, every project, every connection, every creative inspiration sort of unlocked the next door for me. And it felt like that. It felt like sort of wandering through this beautiful universe of possibility and then self-discovery and self-healing. So, initially, as I said, Wish Studio was really about creativity and community. And then the next piece that really came into play for me was really about my own agency and who I was as a woman and who I was inside relationship and, who I am as an individual and what my identity was. Like all these bigger pieces were coming into play. And so I was really starting to explore those through my work. And that definitely made things shift in a new direction. It wasn't just about, shiny, happy inspiration, which I still love, and it's still a beautiful part of my world. But it became much more complex, I think, as time went on and my journey expanded.
And you talked about creativity as healing, and I know as social media platforms have changed, you kind of shared a little bit of the challenges that you were going through. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. How had creativity, how was it helping you kind of deal with the personal challenges that you were going through?
So creativity for me has always been an anchor. It's a love language for me. It's how I connect back with my truest self. And I wouldn't have been able to articulate that, as I said, until, pretty recently. But now that I realize that creativity for me is a tool, it's a practice. It's not just something I like to do. It really is critical to my well-being and to my happiness and to how I express myself into the world. Like I fully embraced that part of myself and fully embraced, the power that has to help me with anything that comes up. So really for me, all my creative practices are about tapping in and then just expressing where I'm at, like what I'm feeling, what I'm dealing with, who I am, exploring those parts of identity that might be, more shadow sides. So I do that through writing. I do that through painting. I do that through collage work. I do that through storytelling. Like there are a lot of different expressive ways that I can dig into my creative well and just really work through all this stuff.
Gorgeous. What do you think it is about collage especially? Because I know that's kind of been, if I were to say that there was actually a continuing thread from the Wishcamp days all the way through to your work now, collage kind of has been one of those things that I've continually have seen you return to again and again and again. So what is it that you think that collage offers you that, not to say that other mediums don't, but what is it about collage that has the juice for you?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think the main thing, because and how it's been a part of my creative world for so long, it's just so accessible,
Mm,
right? And you don't think of someone who makes collages necessarily of having to be like this fancy trained artist, right?
mm,
Collage is just like a messy, expressive, juicy medium that's playful, I feel like. And so it always felt really accessible to me. Like in the days where I never would have labeled myself an artist, and I definitely do label myself as an artist now, but for many, many years of making things, I never thought of myself as an artist. And that's a whole
mm.
nother conversation we can have.
Oh
But
yeah.
but collage was always super accessible. The tools are easy, they're easy to find, they're not expensive. You don't need to, take a class
Mm,
necessarily to just dive in. You can just play. And so that tapping into sort of intuitive creativity through collage was always an easy pathway in for me. And then as I practiced more and more and sort of honed my own sort of personal ways with that whole creative avenue, so many things were revealed to me along the way. And one of them is that collage, in and of itself, seems to be, as an expression, very much like a storyteller, a
mm,
mirror, an oracle in and of itself. So everything you create, and I think this is true probably for any medium, but especially collage, pulling images and words together. When you're really tapped into that intuitive, creative place inside you, and you put this thing together on a piece of paper that just looks like a whole jumble of pretty things, there's so many layers of meaning and symbolism, and story inside the collages, and I love that about it. And I've learned over the years to really use that as a tool, to start to peel back the layers and sort of see the different aspects of myself through collage work. So, it's a beautiful practice to start seeing, things like, color and chakra meanings or elements, or, I mean, there's so many different symbols and meanings that you can attribute to collage work. And it lends itself to sort of being able to do that and play with that without having to be, super knowledgeable about it. It's really forgiving as a medium. And it's also gives you so much, I feel like.
gorgeous. And so, in a lot of your classes, you're actually sharing that your love of collage and the way that it helps you to kind of tap into your intuition and from a different kind of angle. Do you find that people have a resistance to trusting their intuition? Like, do you find that some of the people are like, oh, wanting to show you, is this good? How do you encourage people to tap into their own intuition rather than looking for that external validation of whether
Yes.
it's good or not?
Such a good question. And I think this is just me as a teacher and creative. Like, I really feel like this is a huge part of my work, is in really inviting people sort of into their own desire and wisdom around what they're making, and not be at all sort of, telling people this is how it goes, this is right or wrong, right?
Mm,
Having no roadmap. That's sort of how I approach everything in my creative world, is off the map. Um, and helping people find the way that's their right way. And it's a tricky thing. It's a beautiful way to learn how to start practicing self-trust.
mm,
I
mm,
think, there's so many practices that you can use for that, but I think collage and creativity in particular, um, it's a beautiful and easy way to just try to let go and practice non-judgment. And the more and more you do things like that, and you put
mm.
color on a page, or you choose an image, and you see what happens, the more you begin to really be able to trust that, your inner guidance will show the way. And it's really a matter of practice. It's like a matter of getting in there and making the time and following joy, because that's what it's about, right? The creative piece is not about, you have to do this, or this is, something on your list that, should be done. It's really about, this desire inside of you to make things, and then to follow that thread and really let it lead you, and let your own wisdom guide you, and know that that's sort of the process that's happening. So it's in the unfolding, it's in the doing, it's in the embracing, sort of the messiness of it, the imperfectness of it, the fear. Like, you bump into all those shadow parts of yourself while doing creative things. And that's what I love to work with people around.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And I think you create really a safe space for people to be okay with practicing. I think as adults, we kind of want to get it right immediately. We don't want to be in the place where we are sucking. We immediately want to be able to come out the gate and already be good at whatever and already have that external validation of, okay, you did good,
It's so true. It's so true. And it's such a different thing, like going to an art class and learning technique, right? Learning an actual skill of how to do X, Y, and Z, than going to the kind of classes that I teach, which are nothing about technique and are really about, tapping into what feels good for you. So it's an embodied practice, and that sort of that whole piece has added a whole nother layer of wisdom and dimension to my work as well, of just like feeling what a yes is in your body, right? And that I use that in my creative practices all the time when choosing, collage images and things like that in groups. But just really knowing what your body wisdom is also another beautiful avenue that I play with in my work.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So from this vantage point of where you are now with your creative journey, what would you tell your younger self?
Wow. I probably would tell her to not worry so much, to really to not worry about getting it wrong, to not worry about being judged, to not be afraid to be seen. And I think part of that being seen piece is also just seeing yourself and really acknowledging and embracing ourselves for who we are and all of our quirky beauty and other aspects, right? So yeah, I would just really love to tell her, like, your most unique parts are your most beautiful and impactful parts, and those are the ones to trust, to lean into, to allow unfold. Because I think for a long time I held back on those pieces, thinking like, thinking that they're strange, or thinking that, they weren't good enough, or thinking that, I should be doing something else, that, all these judgments, right, that we have that play in our stories, in our minds. And so, yeah, I would just be like, girl, let go of those stories.
Gorgeous.
Play a new tape.
Yeah, I know, right? Throw that one out, put on a mixtape.
Exactly.
So, Mindy, my final question for you today is, what would you like to see come forth as a creative in the 21st century? Like, what space would you like creativity to occupy?
That's such a good question. I really, and this is sort of the path of my work these days, is utilizing the abundance and the ability of so many powerful, amazing, creative folks, and bringing that work to spaces where it's less accessible, less present. So, people of all sorts, not just people who believe themselves to be creatives or artists, have access to those tools because of their deeply nourishing and healing qualities. That's really where I'm at in my work these days.
Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Well, Mindy, thank you so much. Journal Goddesses, I told you that this here was an amazing, amazing, amazing creative. And I've got all of her contact information in the description box below. You definitely want to check out her work. If you even have ever had like any of the slightest inkling of thought that you're not creative, because the approach that Mindy has really does bring forth this this self-efficacy, this real deep belief in yourself. You kind of get to play in this space of believing in yourself and building that belief in yourself. And even if you do believe yourself to be creative, you could still really benefit from help you to take it to the next level by tuning into some of Mindy's classes. Mindy, again, thank you so much. This was such a rich, rich interview. I do deeply appreciate you, all of your work in the world in the past, and I'm so grateful that you that it really does, like those days back at Wishcamp where we kind of gathered around a virtual fire. This is exactly kind of the energy that it felt like we were just gathering around, drinking, adult beverages or whatever, and just kind of allowing things to spill out of us. And so I deeply appreciate all of the work that you do and all of the energy, all of you that you bring to the world. Thank you so much.
I am so, so grateful and so honored to be with you today. And I feel the exact same way about you. And I think it's just such a beautiful testament to creative connection that we've had this thread together for so long. And I just really celebrate and honor that. And I'm so, so grateful.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Journal Goddesses, if you enjoyed this video, you can give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe because, like I said, I've got tons more interviews coming up with women who are using their creativity in amazing ways and sharing it in the world. Do take good care of yourselves and go do something creative today.